Got your Mag guys here on Birds 365. Let's make it a three-shot. Joining us from the 33rd team and JAKIBSports.com. You'll get his stat pack later today. Our bud, Paul Domowitch, jumps in with us here on Birds 365. Domo, I brought this up with John. You're an even better guy to bring it up with. The rivalry between the Giants and the Eagles. A little bit different now. A tie between the two coaches, their coach knowing Jalen Hurts from college. Is the rivalry lessened because the familiarity between certain key players in this game on Sunday?
I think so, but, you still have two teams that are playoff contenders here, which isn't always the case when they play. A lot of times one team's much better than the other. So I think that plays into it. It's going to, I think it doesn't have that we hate the other team type of stigma to it, but I think it's going to be an exciting game because of the fact that both of these teams are in the same division and both are good, so to speak.
There was a great commercial with Alec Baldwin and John Krasinski. It was, Baldwin's a Yankees fan and John's a Red Sox fan, and that was back when the Yankees were dominating the Red Sox. And they were going back and forth, talking trash and saying, and Baldwin said, kindling doesn't have a rivalry with fire because the Yankees would dominate the Red Sox at the time. The Eagles have dominated the Giants. I mean, I think it's 22-6, Damo. The last 28 games have gone Philadelphia's way. It's tough to have a rivalry with the kindling. The Eagles have dominated this team. I don't get the sense of the rivalry anymore.
Yeah. You go back to the 70s with the Eagles and the Cowboys. I mean, the Eagles were like gum on the bottom of the Cowboys' shoe. The Cowboys didn't recognize them as any kind of special rival, but Eagles fans just despise the Cowboys. You're right about the domination. I mean, you put the word miracle in front of this series because there's been so many of them with, going back to Herm Edwards and Brian Westbrook and Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, it has been a dominance for the Eagles, but I do think the Giants have turned the corner. So we look at the as far as, at the top of the organization, we look post Tom Coughlin essentially, and it's been Ben McAdoo, and they had Spags there for an interim coach. They had Pat Shurmur, who's a good guy, but probably not good offensive coordinator, probably not a good head coach in this league. Joe Judge didn't work out. Just mistake after mistake after mistake. I think they finally got it right with Brian Daboll and Joe Shane as the GM. Before the season started, Damo, I thought this was a team that said, all right, we stink. We're going to rebuild. And all of a sudden they're 6-1. Now they haven't won since, they've won one game since I think October 23rd. So it's come back to the mean a little bit, but it's still pretty impressive what Brian Daboll is doing with this team.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning of the year, maybe, Joe Shane at least was thinking this is going to be a rebuild year. I think if you put these guys on a lie detector, they would admit that they're shocked by their success this year to this point. A lot of it's had to do with their schedule. A lot of it's had to do with the improved play of Daniel Jones. A lot of it's had to do with Saquon Barkley and a much improved defense. But they've overcome, a lot of deficiencies. They got the worst receiving core in the league. They've got an offensive line that's a work in progress, and yet, here they are. What, 7-4-1?
Yeah, 7-4-1. And hey, if the playoffs started today,
they'd be in.
The Giants would be there. Yeah, I mean,
not only in there, they'd be the second wild card.
Yeah.
And when you haven't made the playoffs for as long as the Giants have, you take any position that you're going to get in the playoffs at this stage. Yeah, they got this game. Then they're right back at the Commanders the week after. And I think that actually is going to be the determinant as to who's going to make the playoffs or not. The team that wins is definitely in. The team that loses is probably going to be out and going to have to fight their way back in. The one thing that I thought the Giants showed in the first 6 weeks of the season was a toughness and a grittiness. It's kind of evaporated over the last couple of weeks. Is this a kind of tested game for Brian Dable? A lot of people singing his praises, calling him coach of the year a month and a half into the season. What has he got to reestablish? What do the Giants have to reestablish in this game against the Eagles?
Well, this is a tough game to call a test because they're obviously a pretty obvious underdog. They need to keep it a close game into the fourth quarter and see what happens then. But it's funny. A few weeks back, I looked at this. 2 games left, Eagles, Giants. I figured, the way the Giants were playing at the time, maybe a split would be the best you could hope for if you're the Eagles. That if they were going to lose a game, it was going to be to these guys. Now I'm not so sure. Now, what we're going to see Sunday is, Wink Martindale's going to send the house every pass.
He's coming off the bus, Domo.
Yeah. If Jalen doesn't handle that well, then it's a game. If he rips them apart, if they're able to run against blitzes, if he's able to take off, we could have a rout. So this could go either way. I don't think it's going to affect the perception of either the team or Dable, though, this season. They'd still be 7-5-1 and still playing way above what people thought.
So let me double down on that. Last week, Jalen threw the ball for 380 yards. AJ goes off on his former team. The week before that was all about the running game. Big part of that being Jalen himself. That's one of the prices you pay if you blitz and don't get home. There is open field in front of that quarterback. If I set the over-under at Mr. Hurts at rushing at 99.5 on Sunday, Domowitch going over or under?
A little under. I don't think he's going to have a 100-yard day, but he's going to take advantage of some of these blitzes. But Martindale, they do it a lot, so they're not reckless. They know how to blitz and not like leave wide open lanes for the quarterback to run.
Yeah,
so
but they're not blitzing Jalen Hurts these last 2 months. They've been blitzing some stay-at-home quarterbacks.
That's not going to affect Martindale.
Wink is used to it in practice, though, from Baltimore.
Yeah, from Lamar, right?
Yeah.
No, they're going to be coming after him. He's been okay against the blitz. Not great. He's middle of the pack, maybe, in the league. Much better than last year. But, their offensive line is so much better than, you blitz those guys. You better have numbers. You better be able to take advantage of a, Kenny Gainwell who misses a blitz pickup or something like that. One thing that I'm not going to say concerns me about Jalen because he's playing at an MVP level, but even last week when he used his running backs in the passing game, he still doesn't want to. He's still like, there was one play where Kenny Gainwell was standing wide open in the middle of the field. All you had to do was dump it to him. And Jalen didn't want to. He was like holding, and then finally he did. And Kenny gets a 14-yard gain. But it's not Jalen's mentality, and it's going to have to be maybe on Sunday because, he's going to be rushed.
Yeah. He can usually get more than a running back. That's sort of his mentality, than just dump it off to the running back. But it was nice to see Kenny Gainwell get going at least a little bit in that game. Everybody got going in. Britton Covey got going in that game. So they destroyed the Titans. But, we've had this sort of theme of the season, revenge games. And last week it was A.J. Brown. And that was a legit revenge game for A.J. Brown because he was not happy how things ended with Tennessee, obviously. And the Eagles are out there getting first place GM fired, which was crazy. But this week it's James Bradberry. James doesn't seem to care. He really doesn't seem to care. Understands why the Giants had to move on, salary cap issues. He's been an unbelievable fit for the Eagles. Most passes defended in the NFL. Sauce Gardner, Jody's guy, rookie, probably defensive rookie of the year. Then James Bradberry second. Opposing passer rating when targeted. J.C. Horn, number 1. By the way, he'd be here if he fell in the draft. Eagles loved him. James Bradberry, number 2. Opposition completion percentage. J.C. Horn's first, Sauce Gardner second, James Bradberry's third. James Bradberry has been so good for the Eagles. But I want to throw this out, even the Giants fans, if any are on here and listening, and get your thoughts, Damo. I don't think he'd be great with the Giants because they have Wink Martindale and they are blitzing all the time. He's perfect for what the Eagles do. I think it's worked out for both sides in a weird way, and James doesn't seem to care about the revenge factor. But how good has he been for this team? When you talk about James Bradberry and Darius Slay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, last year it was, you know, you had Slay and you kind of held your breath on the other corner with
Steven Nelson was okay, but you know,
but he's
not
but he's
like
a guy
this guy.
Yeah. I mean, now you got 2 solid corners, and it just reduces the options for a quarterback, especially a quarterback who's under pressure, like most of the quarterbacks have been against the Eagles this year. You know, Jonathan Gannon, he takes so much heat, and yet he knows how to maximize the ability of every player on that field when they're out there, which is why I think he's such a good defensive coach.
Yeah, it's weird how much heat he takes.
Let me ask both you guys a question for next season. Let's say with the season that they've had, Bradberry and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson both slot in as the 8th, 10th highest paid player at their position. They're going to be free agents. That jumps everybody's money up coming off a good season, and I don't think you can argue they both had very good seasons. If you're the Eagles, which one is more important that you keep, Bradberry or Johnson?
Well, what's the age on them, John?
Chauncey's
significant
24 to 25-ish. Bradberry's 29. He's going to turn 30.
I would say Chauncey, because of the age, because of the versatility. I mean, as good as Bradberry's played, you know, they're in a situation with the draft, multiple first-round picks. I think they can get a top corner. So I would say Chauncey Gardner. But, you know, here's the thing.
Couldn't you just as easily get a top safety, Damo?
Yeah. But, I mean, we've seen – I mean, the guy's was leading the league in picks when he got hurt. There's something special about him. You know, Bradberry's very good. He's having a terrific year. I don't think you would – you know, I don't think you're going to say this guy is ever going to make the Hall of Very Good. He's just played really, really well this year. But here's the thing. You know, we've seen reports. The salary cap is going to take a huge jump this year, which eliminates a lot of the hard thinking that teams are going to have to do as far as, well, can we sign can we sign this? You know, can we sign Jalen Hurts and still sign 3 other guys to big contracts? They may be able to.
Yeah, but Damo, let me just break in there because I've heard that a bunch. And here's why I at least somewhat disagree with that. Because while the salary cap is going to go up, I think everyone's assuming the quarterback pay is going to stay the same. They're the first guys who are getting the bump. So that percentage, so when we see the quarterback contracts right now, the percentage is what it is. That's not going to stop. If they get 20 million more on the cap, well, the quarterbacks are first. They're getting the 20% bump. So everything kind of, you just have more money, but you still have the same allocation, if I'm making any sense.
Here's the thing. Number one, I'm not so sure that they're going to sign Jalen Hurts right away because I don't think he's going to wait until he gets an offer he really, really likes because of the bargaining position he's in. You know, they still have him for another year on his contract. You know, you got 2 years with franchising a guy. I mean, so it's a mistake to make the conclusion that suddenly next year they're not going to have money to work with. Second thing is Jalen will work with them, I think. Not that he's going to take any less, but structuring a deal that maybe the first 2 years of his deal aren't going to take a lot of their cap room, which will then allow that, because he knows this is the time. This is when next 2, 3, 4 years they've got a chance to win it, one Super Bowl, maybe more. So he's going to do everything I think possible to help that without shortchanging his bank account.
Damo, a couple weeks ago here on Birds 365, and you might have been in on it with us. We all wondered, how the hell are they going to replace Dallas Goedert? If there's a guy that can't be replaced on the Philadelphia Eagles, it's Goedert, because the Eagles' backup tight ends are what they are. They're just nowhere near the talent level of a Dallas Goedert, where at other positions, Eagles have very good depth and the talent drop-off is not as significant. Yeah, they scored 40 points and 35 points the last 2 weeks. I guess they haven't missed Dallas Goedert near as much as some of us worried they were going to. How are they going to tap into that again? Are they? And I gave this stat yesterday. You may or may not have heard it. The first time the Eagles have scored 5 offensive touchdowns in back-to-back weeks since 1981, the Jaws-led Eagles back in the year after the Super Bowl, the last time they scored 35 back-to-back games. Can they make it 3 in a row? And if so, how will they do so? Is it the wide receivers? Is it a Miles Sanders breakout game? Is it Jalen? You said he's going to be held to 90-something. I'm going over 100, so I'm suggesting it's him with his legs more than anything else. Can they keep it up and score 5 touchdowns again?
They can, but I mean, the Giants have a pretty good defense, so I think. But then we said that about Tennessee last week, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, Jack Stoll's played surprisingly well. He's not catching a lot of passes, but he's been a solid blocker. They've played almost exclusively 11 personnel since Dallas got hurt, and Quez Watkins has become a factor. Last week, we were talking about the running backs earlier. I mean, they caught, I think Sanders and Kenny Gainwell combined for like 5 catches, and then you factor in the run game. They've got so many options not only in the passing game, but the running game that, you can take out one of the best tight ends in the game for a few weeks. And it's like they don't even miss them. It's just I think it speaks to their talent and the fact that, it all starts with that offensive line. They've been able to move on without the help of Dallas in the running game. They're just so good, and they've managed to stay healthy for the most part. So you start to think about special seasons, Damo, because I was like, well, Avante went down, and Josiah Scott's going to be an issue, and he gave up some plays in Indianapolis, but he held down the fort. And then even more so, Reed Blankenship, undrafted kid from Middle Tennessee State. Chauncey Gart, we talked about Chauncey's leading the NFL in interceptions. You go, wow, that's a big downtick. Yeah. He's played better than Chauncey, at least from the film. If you look at Pro Bowl, he's played better, very small sample size against offenses that can't really stress you. But he's played better than on a play-to-play basis than CJ. Yeah, smart kid.
I think what is going on here?
Yeah. It's funny. You go back to 2017, guys. I mean, Carson Wentz goes down in LA Coliseum, and it's like, it's over. Season's gone. And here comes Nick Foles. Spends the last 2 weeks of the season kind of getting the rust off, and then goes into the playoffs and has a playoffs for the ages. I mean, I think his third down passer rating in the playoffs in those 3 games was like 140. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
And then Foles forever will be remembered for coming off the bench and doing what he's done. So go ahead, take shots at me, Eagles fans here. Let's say Jalen turns an ankle. If
that's where he turned the ankle.
Of this game, Jalen. Hey, at least the backup quarterback
with
did
the crappy
get in
turf in MetLife Stadium.
That's right, some bad turf up there at MetLife Stadium. Is the Eagle backup quarterback good enough to come in and beat a Giant team if he's got to play more than a half on Sunday, Damo?
I mean, Gardner Minshew has more starting experience than most backups. he's not Jalen Hurts, but they can win with him, and they would adjust. They would adapt the game plan to fit him. Yeah, they could win with him. You don't want to, because Jalen's so special and is having such a special season. But Minshew's proven that he can play in this league. He can start in this league. It's killing him that he's sitting on the bench
he's going to Nick's office this year. Hey Nick,
yeah. When you see what's happening around the league with some of the backups, although the Rams signed Baker Mayfield and he goes out there and looks like an All-Pro Sunday, yesterday.
Josh McDaniels, by the way, should be embarrassed. He loses to Jeff Saturday with whatever 5 days of prep, whatever it was, and then he loses to Baker Mayfield. Just got off the plane. How do you lose that game? Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the quarterback here, though, and Jody brings up that game. He brings up the sprained ankle. That's where Jalen Hurts hurt his ankle. MetLife Stadium, the Giants game, which happened to be his worst game as a starting quarterback in this league. Eagles lost at 13-7. He had 3 interceptions. Still should have won it, by the way, if Jalen Reagor could have caught the football. Yeah. But he had a really poor game. He'll admit that. Since that day, he has won 14 of 15 starts in the regular season. Over the last 18 games, a full season, he's 16-2 as a starting quarterback. I don't think wins and losses are a quarterback stat because so much goes into winning a football game. But he's a big part of that. And that is a big sample size, a full season. I didn't see it coming, Damo. I didn't see it coming. But I'll say this. If this is his ceiling, that's good enough, right? You don't have to play better than this. He's one of the best players in the league if he just settles into this and can do this consistently, week in, year out.
You're right, but I don't think this is as good as it gets. I think his ceiling still is higher. I think the longer he's in this offense, the more natural. It is natural to him, but decisions are going to be even quicker. I believed in this kid since they threw him in there 2 years ago. As raw as he was, people were telling me he's not accurate enough. Well, now he's up to his completion percentage since last year went up 6-7 points. So
he's one of the best deep throwers in the league, by the way.
Yeah, he's got 10. Last year he had 3 deep throw touchdown passes. 3 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. This year we're 12 games in. He's already got 10 and 1 interception. Granted, having A.J. Brown has helped, but that's why you bring in a guy like A.J. Brown. I give Howie all the credit, not only because A.J. Brown has the talent level he does, but he knew these guys had a relationship, and that's become important in the trust level and how quickly it developed between them. Same thing with Devonta Smith. I still think he's going to get better. We have not seen the best of Jalen Hurts yet.
I guess I'm going back to a conversation.
Scary.
Let me retrace to a conversation we had earlier, Damo, because I think John and I were more on the same page. You were on a more understanding page or Eagles positive page. If the Eagles make it to a Super Bowl, we won't give them a Super Bowl, but they make it to a Super Bowl. And we want to even give Jalen Hurts the MVP. Let's say he's the runner-up to Patrick Mahomes. And his agent walks in this year and says, well, the cap went up. We're several years down the line. We need Patrick Mahomes' contract. That's where we start the negotiations, Howie Roseman, with what Mahomes is making. He's about as highly held in regard athlete as there is here in Philadelphia right now. What happens if the Eagles aren't getting a contract done because the ask is as big as it is? And guess what? It's not an outrageous ask. If he runs number 2 to Mahomes in the MVP and they go to a Super Bowl, he can realistically say, I need to be paid as much as Mahomes does. How's that going to play here in Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, nobody's down in Baltimore right now saying why, asking that question about Lamar.
Baltimore's not 11-1. Nobody's mentioning Lamar Jackson as an MVP this year. Both of those things are happening here in Philadelphia, Damo.
Lamar wants a fully guaranteed contract. I don't know what Jalen is going to want. He's certainly it's certainly going to be a Mahomes-like contract, but there are people that don't like Mahomes' contract. I mean, it's what, 10 years, 11 years?
Actually, like most contracts, it looks pretty good now. Now, because it keeps going up and up and up.
So even from the beginning, it looked club friendly. So I don't know. All I'm saying is there's nothing to be taken from the fact if they don't negotiate a second contract right away. I don't think that means anything negative for either side. I don't think there's any hurry. There might be for Jalen from the standpoint that obviously he wants to get guaranteed money in his pocket in case he gets hurt or something happens. But, I think both sides are going to be very careful about this. This is going to be a huge deal. Plus, here's the factor. I mentioned Lamar Jackson. You've also got Joey Burrow and Justin Herbert who are up for new deals. So do you want to jump the shark here and be the first guy? Do you want to wait and see what they get? If you're the MVP of the Super Bowl, does it affect whether you want to wait or sign quickly? Those are factors I still don't know yet. I know he's not going to get cheated. I know he's going to make a lot of money. I just don't know if it's going to be like next March.
Yeah. At PDamo, follow Paul on Twitter, 33rdteam.com, JAKIBsports.com. Check out his stats package every week there. I want to get Eagles fans riled up on your way out. I talk about this offense. This offense is great. Jalen right now should be the MVP. We still got 5 weeks to go. We'll see how it shakes out. They've been giving out Player of the Week awards, I think, since '84. First Eagle to win 2 in a row. It's a big sample size. They have the best offensive line in football. A.J. Brown is tremendous. Dallas Goedert's coming back. He's one of the best tight ends in football. It is unbelievable. I say the defense is better. I say the defense is better than the offense. I brought up the cornerbacks. T.J. Edwards is the most underrated player on this team. He is having an unbelievable season at middle linebacker, sort of the quarterback of the defense. They're second in sacks. They're first in turnovers. CJ's coming back. I think the defense is better than the offense. Am I crazy?
Boy. Yeah. No, I wouldn't say crazy. It's good. It's not. I don't. The offense is special. The defense is very, very good. The thing I like about the defense is you look at their numbers when they do things. I mean, you mentioned the turnovers.
Yeah.
You mentioned the turnovers and the sacks. They lead the league in interceptions on third down with 8. They lead the league in sacks on third down with, I think, 22 now. When they need a big play, they get it. So it's a very, very good defense. I just think if you're asking me to compare the two, I would still give the nod right now to that offense that I think can score on anyone. Where the defense, I think, could have there could be a bad day.
That's my point, Tomo. Everything is skewed in the modern NFL. Like everybody compares, and the reason, not everybody, but a large portion of the fan base that doesn't like Gannon, they're comparing it to the Buddy Ryan days, the Jim Johnson days. You can't play defense. So in this environment, the Eagles play defense better than anybody else, but everything's skewed towards the offense. Yeah. So I think good offense does beat good defense in the modern NFL. But I think when you compare the Eagles to everybody else, I think there's Kansas City and there's Buffalo offensively. that can do everything offensively like the Eagles, maybe even better at times. Defensively, I don't know if anybody does anything better than the Eagles.
Yeah,
San Francisco?
Kansas.
San Francisco's in the conversation.
I think San Francisco.
You think the Eagle defense is better than San Francisco's defense?
Well, San Francisco's number 1. The Eagles are number 2. Overall,
that pretty much says it right there, doesn't it?
But the Eagles are the number 3 offense, so they're not.
No,
number
we were
2.
just talking about defense.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what did the Eagles? Damo just brought up situation. They lead in sacks. They have more sacks. They have more turnovers. They turn the football over more. So there's more. Yes, San Francisco's number 1 overall. Philadelphia's number 2. The Eagles are number 3 offensively.
It's a phenomenal defensive number that I didn't realize till yesterday. In a league where, you throw a deep pass, the flag's coming out seems like almost every play now. The Eagles have 4 defensive pass interference penalties this year.
Wow.
4.
Is that it?
Yeah.
4?
Slay
That's all they
any.
got is 4?
Yeah. There's some holdings and defensive holdings or illegal contact. I don't know why.
There's some reputation involved there. When you're a good player, like Slay, you go back to the Justin Jefferson game. Slay could have had 4 interceptions in that game. He also could have had 4 or 5 pass interferences in that game. They were letting him play. So Bradberry's the same way. He's so savvy. He's football. He gets away with some stuff. But that's part of it, though. When you build up your reputation to that point, there's nothing wrong with it. So
that's a great stat, Damo. And you get that Damo stat pack on JAKIBSports.com. Included in there will be a prediction or no. Whether there is or not, I'm going to need one out of you here, Mr. Domowitch. Sounds to me like you believe the Eagles are going to win. The question is how handily.
Well, you mentioned the 5 interceptions or 5 touchdowns earlier. I'm going to go with 4, maybe 31-13.
See, defense better than the offense.
If they win 31
only
13,
4 touchdowns.
4 defense and offense.
Only 4 touchdowns. I was joking.
Only 4 touchdowns. All right.
Dom,
always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate it whenever you hop in, bud. Thanks for doing so. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your weekend, including Eagles Giants.
Thanks. Take care, guys. Thanks for having me.
Paul Domowitch here with us on Birds 365. Damn, he's so close to my score. It's scary. Johnny Mac, no, you got to run. You got to get over and listen to what Coach Sirianni has to say, including his bromance with the head coach of the New York Giants. Before you go, you must lay a score on us. You, for the first time last week, picked against the Eagles. I had done so once. That was against the Cardinals, and they could have lost that game if they had if they didn't have the better of the 2 replacement kickers that day. You took the shot last week with Tennessee. Not close. Neither one of us is going to the Giants this week. About a month ago, I'll say, looking ahead at the schedule, you always do it every single week. Where could a loss come in? Where could
that's where I fell into that trap with Tennessee.
You did. And a month ago, I could have fallen into that trap with the Giants here in this game. Because they started to make me believe. Did I think they were going to the Super Bowl? No. But could this team, Giants, win double-digit game, 10 or 11? And they still can. But they've surely come back down to earth. So there's no way I'm going to pick them to beat the Eagles this week. But a month ago, I might have told you, if you said, Jody, they're going to lose one of these games in here, which one do you think it is? It was going to be the Giant game over the Bear game or the at-home Tennessee game or the Indy game. Well, and now it's the game this week. I'm picking the Eagles. I'm sure you are too. How do you think it plays itself out? What do you think the score is going to be?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy win. I think the Giants are talent deficient to begin with, and they're still rebuilding the roster. As I mentioned, I think Brian Daboll's done a tremendous job. Joe Shane as well. I think they're headed in the right direction, but they need, a couple off seasons to replenish the talent. And they started already with Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Andrew Thomas is finally starting to play like a legit, elite left tackle. There's a lot of good things. Xavier McKinney, when he gets back, he's injured now. We'll see what they do with Saquon Barkley, but yeah, they're just not good enough. They're just not. It would have to be a game like it was last year, where Jalen just turns it over all the time, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. That's not going to happen. He's improved to such a degree. I have a 31-18 Eagles. I think it's going to be pretty easy. And I'm not falling into that same goopy trap that I fell in last week. I'm embarrassed by that, Jody. Embarrassed.
You've only picked Eagles to win 11 out of 12 times. Shame on you, John McMullen.
Yeah.
Same as me. That's funny. Domo gave his score. John gave his score. I'm going to give mine. 3 weeks ago against the Colts, I predicted a 31-20 Eagles victory. It didn't happen, but they won the game. Last, what game am I forgetting? In between Tennessee. No, Washington. I don't have the Eagles.
That's their one loss, obviously, Washington.
The Green Bay game, the one in between Indianapolis and Tennessee. I predicted the Eagles would score 31 points. I went back to the same exact score, 31-20, 2 weeks in a row. I gave the same score. Neither of them happened, but sure enough, the Eagles won last game. Both those games. This past week against Tennessee, I didn't think it would be as high scoring. I thought Tennessee's defense was bigger, better, so I only gave the Eagles 26, but I had them winning 26-20. I'm going back to 31 points. I picked that 2 weeks running. I'm sticking with 31 points. McMullen said 31 points. Domowitch said 31 points. But I have that Eagle defense, which John just said is better than the offense, basically shutting down the Giants. I think the Giants are going to do nothing offensively on Sunday. I think Daniel Jones goes back to being Daniel Jones. He'll have at least one turnover, if not two. On your wagering outlets, prediction on a Daniel Jones interception, I guarantee you get at least even money on one pick because he's only thrown 4 all year. Oh, he's going to throw one on Sunday. 21-10. Eagles take care of and dismiss.
And you know Bradberry's going to get it, Jody. Bradberry's going to get it. That's how the way things have been going. The stars have aligned.
Would not be surprised. Check your player prop wagering outlets, Oceans, wherever else you may want to do your wagering. If they offer a James Bradberry anytime interception, I would say take the money and run. Johnny Mac's got to run over and listen to the coach of the Eagles. Partner, good trip up the turnpike on Sunday. Leave early enough so you don't get that MetLife traffic. And good luck getting home on the New Jersey turnpike.
And it's going to rain, of course.
Is it raining Sunday?
It's supposed to be some rain late in the day, so right probably as I head back down the turnpike. That tends to be how it happens.
You'll get no sympathy from me. I've spent too many hours on the New Jersey turnpike and deluges of rain. Suck it up, get it done. Johnny, thanks for getting it done today, bud.
All right, thanks, Jody.
All right, Johnny Mac's going to run out the door. I'm sticking around, and Tone DeShields is going to hop in and co-host the final hour with me. So keep it right here. Coming up in, less than 20 minutes now, we'll get our buddy Jeff Mosher from InsideTheEagles.com to come aboard here on Birds 360.